Shalom, Kahala, Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushua, Ba'ashim, Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. And shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. I'm the brother Yahshua. I'm back with the World War III Daily Update. Shalom and salutations to you as well. We're going to start here in Jeremiah 51. And it says, severe judgment against Babylon. Now, when you read this in the spirit, this is Babylon, right? Which means land of confusion. On land, Babel, confusion. Land of confusion. Today, see, ancient Babylon was Iraq. Okay? Today they call it Iraq. The Bible is a spiritual book. So, in the spirit, Babylon is known today as America. The Bible is not going to say America, but when it says Babylon the Great, all right, you best believe it's talking about America. And then when it says Babylon, you have to distinguish, right, when it's talking about ancient Iraq or when it's talking about America. In this case, it's talking about America. So, Jeremiah 51:1, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. What does that mean? That the Most High is going to cause America to be destroyed with nuclear bombs, and will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land for the day of trouble. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. Who is going to be against her round about? Okay? Well, all these other nations are going to be against Babylon. Okay, starting with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. Okay? And then everybody's going to turn. Right? In the day of trouble, all nations are going to turn against Babylon, even her allies, right? Against him that bendeth the bow, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Meaning your military is going to lose. The biggest, strongest military on the face of the earth, right? You're going to be taken down. Okay? Because everybody has nukes. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. That's those nuclear silos. That's the nuclear bombs. Okay? So that's enough. All right? The slow move, or the build-up, if you will, to World War III is in effect. Vlad made his speech today, or yesterday, depending on what side of the world you live on. And this thing is moving forward. This is 5 hours ago. Utter bullshit. Douglas McGregor, again, as Judge Napolitano. And let's listen to the dialogue.
I'm talking about 16 or 17 years old. In his report, he showed them doing serious military drills, and then he interviews one of them who speaks English, who tells him at his age, he has been to the front lines, he has seen blood and death, he's not afraid of it himself. Is there some age, I should know this, either internationally or legally in Ukraine, below which human beings cannot be put into battle?
Well, there should be, but there won't be, because it depends on how desperate the state is to survive. Right now, the Ukrainian state is desperate to survive. So they're going to reach down very, very low. But there are a couple of things here, Judge, that should be mentioned. Just because some of these kids may be 15, 16, 17, doesn't mean they can't be effective. In fact, there's a lot of history that suggests that they can be very lethal. We talk about our landings in Normandy, and when we faced the 2nd Waffen-SS Panzer Corps, we were complaining about all these veteran soldiers. In reality, more than 85% of the soldiers were under the age of 19. And they fought ferociously, and they inflicted 3 casualties for every one that they took.
These are German soldiers or American?
No, Germans against us and the
Against
British.
us. Wow.
This was June of 1944 and July of 1944. Now, the point is this.
And he's about to make a point about how fierce and accurate the Russian military is. Listen close to what he says.
Young soldiers that have never seen action are frequently much braver than those of us that have seen action.
Well,
Simply because we've survived some encounters. We know how lethal it is. They don't. So I believe the young man. But the sad truth of the matter is that no matter how brave you are, no matter how much willpower you may possess, against overwhelming, accurate, devastating firepower, it's pointless.
all right,
Overwhelming, accurate, devastating firepower is what the Russians are going to bring to bear.
your
Did you hear that? He said overwhelming, accurate firepower, maybe a couple of adjectives more, is what the Russians are about to bring. Okay? How does he know that? All right. I'll show you how I knew it.
How much willpower you may possess against overwhelming, accurate, devastating firepower, it's pointless.
all right,
Overwhelming, accurate, devastating firepower is what the Russians are going to bring to bear.
your analysis is so astute. But the reason I said I was going to make you laugh is because of our person on the other side of this, Matt Van Dyke, who's physically present in Ukraine and who comes on once a week. He's the head of this group, Sons of Liberty International. They purport to be veterans, American military veterans who provide training to, and non-lethal training to Ukrainian civilians and military. When I asked him about the morality of conscripting young people, he basically said it's a day in the park for them. And I got angry when he said that because I didn't believe it. But I want you to watch this clip and then I look forward to your response. How could someone refer to a draftee in the Ukraine military as having the time of his life?
That's
This
just
is death and blood and gore.
believe me.
It's not a summer resort.
Believe me, in most cases, that is not the opinion of most conscripts. But the one conscript that I know, it gave him purpose. It gave him camaraderie. He was actually pleased that he was serving his country.
Colonel, this is worse than propaganda. This is utter bullshit.
Well, in defense of Mr. Van Dyke, he said this is the one conscript that he'd spoken to. So let's be a little understanding. He spoke to one. That may well have been the attitude of one conscript. But
Right.
frankly, towards the end of the Second World War, all of the European nations that were engaged in the fighting were running out of manpower. There wasn't much enthusiasm in the last 6 months of the war to go out and be killed after just a minimum training and equipping. So I have trouble with that. The other thing is that I know that the SBU, the NKVD equivalent on the Ukrainian side, is rounding up and sending deserters back to the front, and they've got lots and lots of deserters. Many of them are very young, and they have executed some of them as an object lesson. So I think things are much worse on the Ukrainian side than obviously Van Dyke is willing to admit, and many others will.
Let's switch gears to the balloon. The balloon that captured in the American imagination and people staring in the sky for hours 2 weekends ago.
Mm-hmm.
A person you and I know or know of, Gordon Chang, from time to time on Fox News, holds himself out as an expert on China, argues that the balloon flew over Malmstein Air Force Base, where approximately a third of America's land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles are stored. Then it flew near both.
Okay, so what'd you hear? You heard that nobody can stop this war from happening. Okay? They were talking about these conscripts, right? To be conscripted into war basically is forced. These kids, right? Basically the same thing went on in Vietnam. There's a draft coming. Let's get I will. Always get this because you got to understand what's going on. This is basically what the colonel was talking about. All right, behold, why are these kids about to come with devastating, overwhelming firepower? Because the Most High said, look, I, okay, look in the NLT. I, the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, will stir up the Medes. God is putting the spirit of overwhelming and superior fighting power on the Russians against the Americans. Okay? And this guy, Colonel McGregor, is that his name? Colonel Douglas McGregor, he called it straight out. He knows what is about to happen because of the nature of the Medes, their ancient nature. That combined with the Most High stirring them up, right? It's kind of like when the Most High said, I hardened Pharaoh's heart. Okay? Pharaoh's heart is his mind. For the Most High to harden his mind, made him stiff-necked and hard-head, and made him fight, even though he knew he was going to get his ass kicked by the Most High. All right? The Most High is firmly in control of World War III. These are the major players in World War III. The Russians against the Americans. All right? And the Most High is stirring up the Russians. Right? Bringing them into that warrior spirit that lives inside them. Why? For his purposes. Okay? All right? So with that, that's good enough for Tuesday. And tomorrow we'll do Wars and Rumors of War. All right? We hope that the elect edified you, brothers and few sisters, with that shalom.